Early in 40 BC, Caesar Divi Filius saw his popularity plummet. Not only had Roman citizens across Italy been stripped of their properties and farms as the Triumvir confiscated them to provide land for the settlement of his many legions, but he had played favourites, exempting any senators and equites allied with the Caesarian party who could afford to donate generously to fund Caesar's immediate ambitions. But his despotism was on full display when Caesar Divi Filius gathered approximately 300 people he deemed guilty of supporting the military operation of the consul Lucius Antonius in concert with his sister-in-law Fulvia Flacca Bambula. On the 4-year anniversary of the assassination of Julius Caesar, the son of the deified dictator, after a fashion which closely resembled human sacrifice, summarily executed his enemies, offering them up to the statue of his divine father. And finally, for the crime of allowing their territory to be occupied by the forces of Lucius Antonius, Caesar Divi Filius permitted his men to pillage and burn the town of Perugia. These were the deeds that led the formerly Caesar-adoring people to regret and resent the authority now levelled against them by Caesar Divi Filius. But Caesar, who understood that Rome's military had now become a formidable political entity bearing the power to advance an agenda, had already made the choice to please his legions over pleasing the Roman people. With soldiers having no agricultural savvy now venturing to work the land, harvests failed and high-priced grain had to be shipped in from Rome's various breadbaskets, Sicily, Sardinia, and Africa. Although Sicily belonged to Caesar Divi Filius according to the reorganization ordained by the Second Triumvirate, Sextus Pompeius had claimed it for himself, making it his base of operations. As Rome was preoccupied with internal strife in the aftermath of the dictator's assassination, the son of Pompeius Magnus had pulled together a large navy, which he now employed to interrupt maritime trade and to invade Sardinia. By controlling both Sicily and Sardinia, Rome's main sources of grain, and by dominating the Mediterranean's trade routes, Sextus Pompeius commandeered all of Italy's incoming grain, forcing Caesar Divi Filius to pay him exorbitant amounts to keep the people fed, an expenditure he was not able to bear. It was imperative that Caesar dismantle Sextus Pompeius's stranglehold on Italy, but first, the after-effects of the Perugian War required his attention. Although Caesar couldn't prove that his fellow triumvir, Marcus Antonius, had conspired with his wife and brother to overthrow the government, it would be foolish to ignore the possibility that Lucius Antonius and Fulvia had been discreetly working on his behalf. Had commanders Pollio, Ventidius, and Calenus done what had been asked of them by Lucius Antonius and marched their forces to Rome, Caesar would have been outnumbered and overthrown. But why had Lucius Antonius called for an end to the triumvirate? Was that by design, that Marcus Antonius might swoop in and seize sole power? Or was Lucius Antonius the pawn of Fulvia, angry that her husband had followed Queen Cleopatra from Tarsus to Alexandria, where rumours spread to Rome that she was carrying Antonius's child? That Fulvia fled to Sicyon, near Athens, rather than to the safety of her husband in Alexandria, also hinted that she may have acted independently, and now feared him. But Caesar could not take any chances. Marcus Antonius held all of Rome's eastern territories, as well as Gaul, with Italy trapped in the middle. Should Antonius decide to march against Caesar, Italy would be attacked on 2 fronts simultaneously. And so, Caesar pardoned the 6 legions that had followed the orders of Lucius Antonius to march on Rome, reassigning them to his own cause. After a brief battle which saw Fulvia defeated, Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa assumed command of her 2 legions, which he then marched to Campania to do battle with Tiberius Claudius Nero, who had decided to throw his lot in with Lucius Antonius. And in Gaul, Quintus Fufius Calenus, who commanded 11 of the legions of Marcus Antonius, fell ill and died. Before Sextus Pompeius, who was busy buttressing his own army with runaway slaves, could think to take those legions for himself, Caesar immediately ordered one of his close friends and advisers, Quintus Salvidianus Rufus, to travel to Gaul to take possession. Now, should Marcus Antonius truly declare war against him, Caesar Divi Filius was better prepared. But Marcus Antonius was busy living it up in Alexandria. He had proudly secured the Egyptian queen's throne for her by executing Cleopatra's sister, Arsinoe IV, in Ephesus, and by ordering the Arcadians to turn over to him the person they thought to be her brother, King Ptolemy XIII, whom he also executed. After his meeting with Cleopatra in Tarsus, still hoping to extract from her the funds he needed to invade Parthia, Antonius made a trip to Alexandria. Dressed in a casual tunic rather than his official toga, Marcus Antonius stepped off his vessel to throngs of cheering crowds, thrilled that the Roman Triumvir had come to Alexandria as a private citizen. For at least 2 months, Antonius revelled in every pleasure offered him, while ignoring official dispatches which managed to find him in Alexandria. Together with Cleopatra, Antonius feasted by day and drank by night. Referring to themselves as a club of inimitable livers, Antonius and his friends, along with Cleopatra and her intimates, engaged in gluttonous and riotous pleasure, happily shutting out the world around them. Marcus Antonius loved fishing, and he loved pranks. Unable to catch any fish, but always in high good humor, Antonius would order servants to swim beneath his skiff and attach fish to his hooks, which he would then pull from the water with boisterous shouts of laughter. And Cleopatra would play along, secretly ordering one of the servants to attach a rancid fish to his line. When Antonius would reel in his putrid catch, he would laugh, taking her joke in stride. At night, they group of inimitable livers would disguise themselves in order to traverse the streets of Alexandria. There, they ducked in and out of taverns, engaging in pranks perpetrated against citizens, often returning to the royal quarters beaten and bruised by angry victims who were ignorant of their true identities. But Marcus Antonius's revelries came to a sudden end when Prince Pacorus, the son of Parthia's king Orodes, invaded Syria alongside a Roman citizen named Quintus Labienus. Labienus was the son of Caesar's legate, Titus Labienus, who had defected to the camp of the Pompeians. Quintus Labienus had been sent as an ambassador to Parthia by Brutus and Cassius to beg military aid from King Orodes before the battles of Philippi. After Philippi, Quintus Labienus remained in Parthia and waited. As Marcus Antonius blatantly executed an Egyptian princess and Caesar Divi Filius was busy stealing farmland from Roman citizens, Quintus Labienus, who had adopted the cognomen Parthicus, deemed the time right to reignite and gather the remnants of the Pompeian party. He also convinced King Orodes that the time was ripe for invasion. Crossing the Euphrates River, Labienus Parthicus and Prince Pacorus split their forces. Labienus Parthicus marched his Parthian legions into Cilicia and Cappadocia, and Prince Pacorus invaded Antioch. He moved next to Sidon, and then to Judea, whereupon Judea's Prince Faisal, knowing that his brother, Prince Herod, had safely escaped Jerusalem, dashed out his own brains. Upon receiving word that Parthia had invaded Roman territory, Marcus Antonius sailed out of Alexandria, leaving behind a queen heavy with child. It is likely at this time that Antonius caught up on all the correspondence he had ignored during the months he was living his inimitable life. His brother and his wife had raised legions and marched them against Rome, and Caesar Divi Filius had taken possession of 11 of his Gallic legions in breach of their territorial agreement, which Antonius interpreted as a declaration of war. In light of such developments, Antonius turned his attention west. The east would have to fend for itself. Antonius sailed for Athens, where he could begin raising new legions and where his large naval fleet was stationed. While in Athens, Marcus Antonius learned that Cleopatra had given birth to twins, a boy she named Alexander Helios, which meant sun, and a girl named Cleopatra Selene, which meant moon. Now Cleopatra had a daughter with some Julian blood to whom she could marry her son by Julius Caesar, securing Egypt's throne for the next generation. As for Marcus Antonius, his bloodline would now be forever mingled with the descendants of Egypt's new Caesarian dynasty. Before setting sail for Italy at the head of an enormous fleet, Marcus Antonius paid a visit to his wife, Fulvia, who was in nearby Sicyon with their combined family of children. Fulvia had used her position as wife of one Triumvir and mother-in-law of another to control the Senate. Then she had allied with Antonius's brother Lucius to raise 8 legions, after which they tried to recruit Marcus Antonius's Gallic generals Pollio, Ventidius, and Calenus. For Marcus Antonius, Fulvia's actions must have been difficult to decipher. Had she started a war in Italy to protect his interests in Rome, interests which didn't appear to be threatened? Or had Fulvia gone to war to punish and overthrow a husband who found a wealthier and far more powerful woman? We do not know what took place when Marcus Antonius met with Fulvia. However, by the time the Triumvir set sail from Greece, Fulvia Flacabambula was dead, killed by what is referred to as a sudden illness,